And welcome back to episode number 57 of Raise the Banner podcast. It's your three co-hosts here, as usual: Matt Couture, Benny Ballgame Dearth, Zach Brewitt, and special guest today. I don't know where Ben just went. Jared Carrabis. Jared, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Matt? How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's Red Sox off season's up and running. I'm trying my hardest to not get overly optimistic, but I kind of can't help myself the way things work in my heart.
I feel like it's perfectly fine to be overly optimistic right now. But I mean, like, I can't like promise you names or anything, but I feel like at the point where we're at right now, it's more than okay to be optimistic.
Yeah, that's basically the first conversation too. It's like the last few off seasons, you're like, all right, this is going to be the off season they're going to spend, and then Warner came out last year with the full throttle comment, got me, all wrapped up in a ball, all excited. And Ben's like, you know what? Until they do something, don't get your hopes up. And I'm like, Ben, I'm telling you, it's going to happen this off season. And then dog shit happened. So now I got like PTSD of getting myself over. Too happy, too excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I've been very much in a like I have to see it to believe it mindset, but then like the more conversations that I've had, the more it's like, all right, like even just hearing it is doing something for me. Like I know that like people will come at me and they'll be like, "Oh, like you take checks from John Henry and you're just carrying their water." I'm like the money that I get from Nesson is like 2% of my overall income. Like I am not controlled by the Red Sox whatsoever. I'm the same Red Sox fan that I've always been, just now it's my job. But and I think that even last year, like I was doing stuff for Nesson last year, and I was one of the most pessimistic Red Sox fans on the internet. Like I was getting talked to like I was the boomer, like old guy that was like I was basically being treated like I was Shaughnessy, where I was just always negative and all. I'm like, no, I'm just being realistic, and I'm pissed that it's been half a decade, and I feel like not only have they not been winning, but they're not even trying to win. Everything that I said was 100% correct. And I was just getting crushed for being too negative. And I'm like, I'm correct here. And now we're at the point where things are changing, things are different. And I know that nothing has happened yet. They haven't spent any money, they haven't made any trades, but just the way that they're talking is different. And I'm not saying I'm happy with just that. There obviously needs to be more than just talk, but it is absolutely something of substance when you look at the way that they're talking now compared to how they were talking last year.
The way other people are talking too gets me going, right? Like I think with Scott Boras, the way agents are talking, the way other teams and representation and players are talking is like, I think it was Scott Boras who said, last year they came with just Eddie Romero, they came with just one person, and now they come with full teams, and like they're actually seem to be fully engaged. Where last year, yeah, the full throttle thing happened, Matt, to your point, but it never took off, and this year feels much different, right? Like you're bringing the farm for Juan Soto. Obviously, he's Juan Soto. But there's talks about even like the biggest names, and it's in how they're talking about it is more than just they're checking in on Corbin Burns, for example, or they're interested in Max Fried. It's like no, they have actual plans to meet with Max Fried when he comes back from vacation. I think they've checked, they've called and been in contact with Blake Snell, for example. So, like Jared, to your point, it feels different, and I think it's because there's actual action behind just their words this time where we haven't seen in the years past.
Yeah. So like the thing with me is that like, yeah, I have information and people trust me with, telling me stuff. I don't report everything that I know. I probably don't even put out more than 20% of what I know during an off season. And I can tell you that last off season, it's because I don't, this is my belief, because I don't put everything out there. That's why I get so much, is because like people will be like, oh, he's not going to say anything, like this is just for him to know. And I was getting full on screenshots of conversations, text messages that were happening between the Red Sox and whomever else. And I'm reading it. And I'm like, this is so pathetic that this is how we operate. It was just unacceptable is the word. And like, that's why I was so angry. That's why when I went into the season, I was like, they're not trying. And that's why I was even more angry about the backlash that I was getting about how I felt. And it's like, because I know more than you, but I can't say that I know this stuff. So that's why it was just so frustrating last year. It was extra frustrating. And that's why this year I'm happier and more excited, is because there is a lot that is coming across my dashboard that I haven't shared on Section 10, that I haven't put out on Twitter. I think for some reason, the scoop shop is popping. It's been popping like the last week or so. And like, even in the scoop shop, I won't tell them everything. Like, I will give them a taste of what's going on, but I won't tell them everything. Like say for example, like, I can't give away names, but like, someone calls me, I'll send them the screenshot of like, look who called. But I won't say what the conversation, like, they don't know a word about what the conversation was
That's
about.
tough.
But it's just like, hey, like, this is good to know. Like, these conversations are happening with this person, that person. But there's just more action this year. There's, like, I think last year it was kind of just like you would hear from multiple agents who were like, what's going on with your Sox, man? Like, this is not the Red Sox that I know and have worked with. Like, all the agents were asking me, like, what is going on? What happened? And now this year, you've got players that used to play here, players that are free agents, players that are named in trade rumors, agents, front office people. Everyone is like, wow, like, they're for real this time. So that's why that's been like my working take, is there's way too much smoke for there not to be fire. Like, it would be the most colossal embarrassment and letdown and display of disingenuous behavior if the Red Sox didn't have, I'm not saying they have to walk away with Juan Soto, because that's still highly unlikely, but to do something big, multiple big things, like, that's kind of the stage that is being set at this point in time.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me came down to, like, they're talking to Soto. So if you're talking to Soto, and Ortiz's words, even just like an hour ago, when he was on the Fenway rundown with Cotillo and Sean McAdam, was basically like, the Red Sox really want him. And so if they're willing to, if they really do want him, that means they're willing to hit that 500 plus, maybe 600 plus $1 million contract. So if they don't get Soto, and that in return they don't pivot hard to other big names, yeah, I mean, that would be the ultimate punch in the face to Red Sox fans, kind of all around. They have to do something big with the words that they've been saying, or else there'll be John Henry might not be able to get his way into Fenway without a riot outside of it.
I just think that, for me, I'm comfortable going in the 600 range for Soto. I have a line for Soto, right? Like, it seems like Steve Cohen doesn't. It seems like he is, the rumor is, whatever the top bid is, tack on 50 million, and that's what the Mets offer is going to be. But we were talking about this on Baseball is Dead yesterday, and I was saying, the quotes that were coming out from his meeting with the Yankees gave me more hope about the Red Sox chances. Because if Juan Soto is asking the Yankees about their farm system and their future pipeline, that's a bad thing for the Yankees. If he's not walking into any meeting being like, how much money will you give me? What's the most amount of money that you'll give me? If that's the only thing he's asking, then yeah, I feel pretty bad about the Red Sox chances. But if he's weighing heavily the position that a farm system is in for that organization, it's money, and like, he wants to still win. He won a World Series with the Nats. He just got to the World Series with the Yankees. But this is a guy that probably wants multiple championships, the chance to be a part of a dynasty somewhere. And the Yankees are not in a good position to offer him that. Like, their pipeline sucks. And the Red Sox, you've heard multiple evaluators say this is the best farm system in baseball, at least from a position player standpoint. So I think if the Red Sox are somewhere in the 600 region, I'm happy, because if you go 650, 700, then it's like, all right, you're overpaying. That's when you get to the point where you're saying, all right, $700 million. What could we have done with that to get 3 or 4 players? Like that's, but for 600,
Yeah.
he's worth it. It's a star. I've been pissing and moaning for years about how the Red Sox don't have stars. Juan Soto is a huge star, and he's Dominican. And if he's got so we had Poppy on the podcast 2 years ago, something like that. And he was talking about, I'll be at Fenway walking around. I'll just walk right by guys. No one asks me for advice. No one asks me for help. Like, hello, like I'm David Ortiz. Like, and how many lefties are on the team? Not one guy is asking David Ortiz for pointers on hitting at Fenway Park specifically. Juan Soto is going to have David Ortiz at his disposal whenever he wants. Not that he needs it. I mean, he's like a top 3 hitter in baseball. But yeah, I just I have a line with Soto, but it's 600 million, and I think that once you get to the point where like the Red Sox bid is 600, the Yankees is 615, the Dodgers is 630, the Mets is 650. Once you get to $600 million, like your life is no different whether it's 600 or 650. And if you care about winning championships, all right, the Dodgers is a great place to go to do that. But so will be the Red Sox with the help of Juan Soto and the pipeline of talent that they are showing him that the Red Sox have. So I think ultimately, do I love the Red Sox chances? No, I put it at like 17% is what I said. But that's a hell of a lot larger of a percentage than I thought in September towards the end of the season. I gave it like 0%. I was like, yeah, why would he come here? The Red Sox, first of all, are not going to spend that money, and it's just not even worth the conversation. But now it is certainly worth the conversation in my eyes, especially if he's asking the Yankees questions like that.
Now, on the farm system too, if you're going to sell them on the farm system, right, the organization's been selling us on, and you could argue it's now 4 guys. You throw Campbell in the mix. Do you think in any way, shape, or form, if that's a selling point, Soto's like, fine, like I'll take it, whatever it is, whatever 13 times 45, 47, you get to that $600 million. Obviously, you figure out a way to make it work, but how difficult is it to make, like, where do you see Roman Anthony not in right field, or do you move Juan Soto because Roman Anthony's pegged into a certain spot? Like, how does it impact somebody like him or a Campbell who may or may not be an outfielder? Like, what does that shuffle look like if you bring in a Juan Soto and then it's like, okay, well, now that you're here, these 4 guys have to stay. How do they fit into the picture?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you figure it out after, like you just don't. It's Juan Soto, it's 26-year-old Juan Soto. So, I mean, Roman Anthony, you have to factor in Jaron Duran. Wilyer Abreu obviously is being dangled as a trade piece. Maybe he's the guy that gets a Garrett Crochet trade done, because even if you sign Juan Soto, it's like you still need pitching. Like if they sign Juan Soto, they're still going to have to go out and maybe pay a Max Fried. They're going to have to trade for a Garrett Crochet. A Blake Snell is someone also that's an intriguing option. So I think it's one of those things where there is nobody that is out there right now that you're like, we have X, so we can't figure out how to make Juan Soto work. There's no one.
Sure,
even Roman Anthony being the number 1 prospect in baseball. No, I would not trade him, but you figure it out. Like you find a way. And like even someone like a Ceddanne Rafaela, right? Like they gave him this extension. Ultimately, as much as I love the player, love the defense, he is kind of like a super utility guy on a championship team. Like he's not your everyday center fielder. He's not your everyday shortstop. Like that's a guy that's going to get, 400 something plate appearances being moved around. Like he's a defensive wizard, Brock Holt type. That you need players like that, sure, but remove him from the everyday equation. Yoshida, they're never gonna let him see the light of day in the outfield grass ever again.
Nope.
So it kind of just becomes like a a mix and match game out there. But I especially when it comes to the whole there's too many lefties thing, don't want to hear it. It's Juan Soto. Like, I don't care. It's Juan
he bats
Soto.
better versus lefties than most of the righties bat versus lefties.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter.
No.
I mean the biggest thing in terms of batting Soto, like you said, like that trumps anything. So you just figure it out afterwards. I see a lot of people online saying, they're going to spend on Soto, but they really need pitching. And the answer is, all right, well, if you add Juan Soto, not only does your lineup get a massive boost in the center of the lineup, but it lets you have that much more wiggle room in trades to then say, we can trade an Abreu with basically no need for him anymore, or we can trade a Duran if they really wanted to go that route, or Rafaela, or whether it be maybe even Roman Anthony. That just basically adds to the asset pool of who you can realistically deal for, whether it's a Garrett Crochet or sending one of the guys to Seattle for whether it's Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, whoever it may be. There's basically nothing that Soto gets in the way of. It's just, okay, you get Soto and now you work from there. That's correct. The priority.
Yep.
Yeah. If they don't get Soto, though, so let's go down that road. Who is, free agency wise, who's your number 2 option?
I mean, I'm happy with either Blake Snell or Max Fried. I don't know, like, I like both for different reasons. Like, they're not super comparable outside of they're both left-handed. Like, Blake Snell has the AL East experience. He's more of a strikeout guy, but he stinks the first 2 months of the season. Like, it's almost like, you're bringing a guy and hoping to weather the storm until he becomes Blake Snell in June, which is like, that's what he's been his whole career. But when he turns into Blake Snell, you have one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball for that run of whatever, 3.5 months. Max Fried, more of a ground ball pitcher. The Red Sox infield defense sucks. Like, that's one of the things where it's like, I love Max Fried, but the outfield and the defense was outstanding. I think, the number of unearned runs that were allowed last year by the Red Sox, most of that you can pin on the infield defense. So sure, I would love a Max Fried if you do something about the infield defense. I don't know what you do. Like, I am kind of intrigued, very intrigued at the idea of trading for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to play first base. That's something that has been dangled out there. Rafael Devers kind of is what he is defensively at third base. I mean, it's not like we'll see. Like, he kind of just is what he is at this point. Second base has been a revolving door since 2017. And Trevor Story, he's a great defensive shortstop. How many games is he going to play? No one can answer that question. You can't be like, pencil him in for 130, like, you can't do that.
No.
So for me, there's almost too many questions about the infield defense to be like, Max Fried's the guy. And it sucks to hold their incompetence against Max Fried. But that's just kind of the way that you have to look at it. So it's either that or, you throw together a trade package for Garrett Crochet. And I know that a lot of people would say, well, you got to look at the top prospects in your farm system. And it's like, well, do you? Like, the White Sox are dumb as shit. Like, they are not like an organization that is run by smart people whatsoever. Like, you could, I understand that, like, when you traded for Chris Sale, like, you gave up the number 1 prospect in baseball, and now the equivalent would be Roman Anthony. I don't think you have to give up a Roman Anthony to get Garrett Crochet. I really don't.
Nothing against Crochet. I don't think he's in Sale's category at the time of the trade.
Talent-wise, maybe, but like pedigree and back of the baseball card wise, no. Chris Sale, like, once he got here, he was already on 6 straight seasons of a top 6 finish for the Cy Young. Because it was 17 and 18 was the end of that run, and those were his first 2 seasons here. Yeah. So like, the pedigree definitely different, but I think talent-wise, it's there. The strikeout numbers, the strikeouts per 9, definitely there. It's just the workload, we don't know. So it is kind of I don't want to say a gamble, but you don't exactly know what Garrett Crochet is when he makes 30 plus starts. He made 30 plus starts last year, but like half of those were innings limit starts. Like he was only allowed to throw like 50 or 60 pitches. So he ended up making like 32 starts with like 140 innings or something like that. But yeah, would love Garrett Crochet here as well. So I think that there's things that the Red Sox can do to make them infinitely and instantly better than they were last year. I think I think last season, last offseason, like Aaron Nola went quick. I wanted Nola. I was like, this dude, he's the real deal. Like he's been there and done that. I think he can be had at a reasonable price. And he went like a week and change into the offseason. Like right now, every piece that I would love the Red Sox to have, it's still out there. Teoscar Hernandez. That one to me, I don't want to say it's a more difficult pill to swallow, but it's not the best look for the Red Sox when you could have had him last year for no pick attached to him. And now you could have had him on a 1 year deal last year, whatever. Now you're going to have to give him 3 years and he's 1 year older and he got the qualifying offer. So you're going to have to cough up a pick for him. Stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I'm just enthused that all of the most enticing options are still out there.
Do you see them like using that platform to maybe try to entice Soto? Whether we obviously don't know exactly when Soto is going to sign. We hope it's sooner than how long it took Ohtani and Yamamoto last year. But do you see them kind of saying being more aggressive with guys outside of Soto to try to entice Soto a little bit more to coming here, or do you think that they're kind of independent of each other?
I think it helps. Also, I looked at it, I think this morning. Ohtani signed like the second week of December. Like Bryce Harper signed late February. So that's why, like, because I looked because someone had like tweeted me being like, when do you think like Soto's going to sign? I was like, there's really no rhyme or reason to when big free agent guys sign. Like it could be super quick. It could take forever. But I being that there's, I don't want to say a limited market, there's probably like 4 or 5 teams for Soto to pick from. I think he's going to have a pretty clear idea of where he's going after he completes all these first round of meetings, because Scott Boras is going to sit there and say, listen, if it doesn't start with a 6, you're out. He's not wrong. Like I think there are teams like the Dodgers and the Mets and maybe even the Yankees, because in my head, I kind of like wrote the Yankees off. I've seen like, I can't even remember. Was it Bowden? Someone was like, I don't even have the Yankees in like the top 3 most likely landing spots for Soto. I think that is not entirely accurate, but I don't know that many people have the Yankees as the favorites. But then Jay Hay on Baseball is Dead yesterday was saying, like, when's the last time the Yankees had a player that they really wanted that was theirs and didn't keep? And I couldn't think of a name. But the counter to that is, when is the last time the Yankees were trying to sign a free agent that Steve Cohen was also in on, or that the Dodgers were also in on? Like when Garrett Cole was a free agent, Steve Cohen wasn't with the Mets yet. The Dodgers weren't spending $1 billion in offseason yet. So like the game's changed. Like I understand the point. Like the Yankees this doesn't normally happen to the Yankees, but the landscape has changed. The Yankees' ways of spending has changed. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. I'm really, at the end of the day, just hoping that everyone is kind of in the 6 to 650 range, and that he really believes in the Red Sox farm system and the fact that they're selling him on like, hey, like look at this lineage of Dominican legends that have played for the Red Sox, and you could be the next one, and hoping that means something to him. Other than that, I don't know how the Red Sox stand a chance against like a bidding war. They just don't. They don't stand a chance in a bidding war.
Like you said, like once you get over 6, it's like, $600 million, and he's already made plenty, a good amount of money.
Right.
How much does it truly matter to a player? And I think it does a little bit to depending on the player. But in terms of, and not really to sound biased because I think it's pretty true, the Red Sox, in terms of the next 5 to 10 years, on paper, should be one of the more attractive teams if you believe in ownership's commitment to win going forward. So if ownership and Tom Werner and Cora, and I think them extending Cora, and more importantly, Cora willing to stay and extend mid-season, I think was the first signal to say, okay, things are going to change this offseason, because I didn't see Cora signing up for another 3 to 5 years.
No, me neither.
Yeah, below the tax, spending like dog shit. And so when he re-signed and extended, I was like, all right, like ownership had to have given him some type of, hey, we're going to be back to, a top 5, top 7 payroll in baseball. And so that factor into it, I just think the Red Sox have, in terms of the prospects in the current major league team and the ability to add not only Soto, but another big name or two, they can make some noise and be immediate contenders now. And they got the prospects and young guys to fit in to be highly competitive for the next 5 to 10 years. And obviously that's going to be Soto's prime. So that it's got to be extremely attractive to him. So other than the Dodgers, I mean, is there a team outside the Red Sox in this competition that you view having a higher attractiveness in terms of a chance to win the next few years?
No. No. I think, the Yankees' future, the Yankees are not in a great position, like future-wise. Like this was kind of like their window. Aaron Judge is not getting any younger. His body is not conducive to aging well. He's their center fielder. He already has horrible defensive metrics. You're going to have to move him to a corner. And then what? Like Juan Soto is a corner outfielder. And, at some point down the line, like you're going to be paying him to be a DH. Garrett Cole is in his mid-30s. Like their farm system sucks. So it's not them. I don't know how serious the Phillies are. Their window to win, to me, it's pretty long. Like I think this iteration of the Phillies is kind of dwindling. But it's Dave Dombrowski. Like he's just going to keep supplementing it and switching out parts and slapping on new ones. And obviously like that ownership group has shown a willingness to spend money. So I wouldn't rule out the Phillies. I think the Phillies are kind of like my dark horse, I guess, for Juan Soto, but I just don't see Juan Soto in Philly. Like that was the other thing too that I had mentioned on Section 10, because I had like a little birdie that I was asking about the situation that was pretty plugged in on like Juan Soto and all that. And this individual made it a point to note like Juan Soto wants to be the man wherever he goes. How much does that matter? We'll see.
Not happening in Philly.
Not happening in Philly. Not happening in LA. Not happening in New York. Like where else can you go? I guess Toronto. But do you see Juan Soto as a Blue Jay? Realistically speaking, Juan Soto could receive the second highest bid from the Blue Jays. I believe that to be true. I think it could be Mets 1, Blue Jays 2. Like they're kind of interchangeable there. But I don't like why, if you care about winning, why are you going to Toronto? Like they have not proven to be able to develop their prospects and go on runs in the playoffs and supplement it with big free agent money and none of that. So, I mean, the more that you talk about it out loud, the more you're like, I kind of like the Red Sox make a lot of sense, like that just makes a lot of sense.
It fits for sure. I mean, that's going into the offseason. None of us, I didn't sit back and say, all right, they're going to be players for Juan Soto. So when the report came out that, they're meeting with them, I was skeptical. But day by day, I'm like, all right, like really Boston makes a ton of sense for him. He's got the Ortiz connection. He can come to a team that is on the rise. And like I said, if ownership, the report came out, I think it was today, that he wants like a close-knit relationship with ownership. That might not be the most attractive thing for Boston. But in terms of commitment to win, if they can prove to him that they're all in for the next 5 to 10 years, Boston's going to be one or two on the list of bright futures for a player that's going to sign for the next decade.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we should just lie to Juan Soto and convince him that David Ortiz owns the Red Sox, and he should probably just believe that at this point.
I was going to say, going to that.
Plays in.
What?
What do you, Jared? How much do you think the Ortiz factor really could play into this?
Very minimal, I think. I think it's more of just like a icing on the cake type deal where, if that's your idol and he's a legend in the Dominican Republic, I believe they're neighbors. I want to say the place that Poppy just got down there, because he sold his house around here. He's got a house in Miami that I've been to, and it's huge, massive. Like his house in Miami is absurd, but I think his house in the Dominican is either right next to or within shouting distance of Juan Soto. So they obviously have like a close relationship. I don't know how much at the end of the day, like that matters in choosing a team. I think it helps. Like if you're leaning towards the Red Sox for reasons X, Y, and Z, you can also be like, well, I have the Poppy connection as well. Like, I think it's just kind of like if you were to do like a pros and cons list, it's going to end up on the pros list, but it's not going to be a deciding factor or anything.
Fair enough. Zach, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, how much stock do you put in so Juan Soto reports came out that he wanted, as you said, like to have like a closer relationship with the owner. John Henry didn't go to the meetings. It was Tom Warner who was kind of representing the ownership group. How much stock do you put in that? Kind of deter. I know he's not like the Red Sox aren't the leading team right now, but how much stock do you put in John Henry not showing up, being like a determining factor in Juan Soto ultimately not choosing potentially the Red Sox?
I was disappointed to see that he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like the only thing so far this offseason that made me be like, ugh, like, we have all this positive mojo going and all the reports are like full steam ahead and they're going to spend money and they're serious. They're in on Juan Soto. They could be in on everyone. They're going to blow past the luxury tax. And then it's like, oh, they had a meeting with Juan Soto and John Henry didn't show up. Like that was the one thing where I'm like, why? Because if John Henry was at that meeting, then everyone's like, oh shit, like the Red Sox are
right here,
back. Yeah. Like we are back.
It's very true.
Yeah, but like him not being there was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Same
like,
old John Henry, same old stuff. Yeah.
I agree. All the questioning about whether or not he truly cares, like can kind of still exist if you don't show up. Like if you don't show up to a Juan Soto meeting, like who are you showing up for? That's like true. Who the hell is out there or will become available in the next 5 years that is worthy of showing up for if Juan Soto is not the guy? I don't know.
They're really, I can't think of someone that's going to become available that would make more sense for him to show up.
No, like they didn't meet with Ohtani, but like that would have been a guy. But it's like, all right, yeah, they didn't even meet with him. But
that's the one thing, like you said, that kind of makes people hesitate and say, like, all right, we're heard all this. We heard a lot last offseason from Werner's comments and Sam Kennedy. Like we're hearing it again. The noise is louder than ever. Warner's there. Kennedy's talking, making things seem like it's going to be a great, fruitful offseason. Yet Henry is still kind of in the shadows, not, talking to the media, being part of this. And so it makes you kind of, as much as you get excited, a little skeptical and kind of just waiting to see what actually happens versus believing it's truly going to happen.
So to me, Poppy wasn't in that meeting too. In the interest of being fair, Poppy was not in that meeting. So every like first round of meetings, especially with like a Scott Boras client, a big name client, you're not going to put an offer on the table in that first one.
Yeah.
You're just not. Like that's just not common practice. No team did it.
The feeling out process.
Yeah. You're getting to know us. We're getting to know you. We're going to express how interested we are. And we're going to let you know we're not going to balk at the fact that this is going to be a massive contract. Like that's kind of the gist of those deals. I think there will obviously be a round of second meetings with the teams that Juan is actually interested in signing with. Maybe it's still all the same teams because if you know Boris, you want as much leverage as possible. Like he
I was
could
gonna
go to
say,
Scott,
even if he doesn't want like Toronto, he
right?
will meet with Toronto just to
Right, just to get a
increase,
number.
Interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Juan could go to Scott Boris and say, there's a 0% chance that I'm signing with the Blue Jays. I have no interest in living in Canada. But Scott's going to say, let's take the meeting because if they make the highest bid, then we're going to take that to the Dodgers. We're going to take that to the Mets and we're going to get you more money. So I don't think anyone is going to be eliminated publicly, but they will be eliminated to Scott. And if that second meeting comes about, and John Henry's not in it or Ortiz isn't in it. All right. Now we can really kind of like criticize. But for now, it's like, all right, these are the guys that are I still would have preferred John Henry being there because, it just shows the respect. And you had mentioned earlier, how much money is enough money. There's not enough money when it comes to like those certain players that view the dollars as respect. Pedro is the same way. It was like, yeah, I know I have like enough money to do whatever I want for the rest of my life, but if the money doesn't like represent the amount of respect that you have for me, then okay, then we'll see you later. So I think that that's ultimately what this is going to come down to is chance to win. Is it a market that I feel comfortable in? And does the dollar amount reflect an amount of respect that I feel is appropriate?
Where do you think he ends up? You got to make a prediction now.
I still think it's the Mets. Yeah, I still think it's the Mets. Because I think if everything out there is true, and obviously there's obviously going to be a lot of bullshit that's out there, but if even some of the stuff that's out there is true, and that Steve Cohen is going to go 50 million over the highest bid, and you're Juan Soto, it's like you've already played in New York. It's a big market. They were just 2 games away from the World Series. As long as Steve Cohen is there, they're always going to be at least competitive. Like you may look at their farm system and say like this pipeline sucks, but it's like, all right, cool. Then we'll just buy stars because I can do that. I'm Steve Cohen. Yeah, I think ultimately it's just going to be that he cuts him a check that he can't refuse. So yeah, that would be my guess.
So to piggyback off that though, do you think 50 million over, like let's just say keep it even, Sox offer 600 on the dot. Do you think 50 million at that point is enough to where he cares less about being part of a dynasty? Yes, he goes to New York and he becomes the man in New York for the next 13, 14, 15 years. Is 50 million enough to say, I'm going to walk away from a player-friendly market in Boston and younger guys being built around me to have a core where I know there's younger guys under cost control, that there's a larger window in Boston? Like, is 50 million really, is that really going to be enough to deter him away from a package that Boston offers? Because for me personally, like, I think it's the Mets. I think the Sox are definitely there, but is 50 million really enough to deter Soto away from the things the Sox can offer him that the Mets can't?
I think it's an interesting question because, like, as you're asking it, I'm thinking about it as me. Like if it were me, if it's one team is 600, but another one is 650, and one place is somewhere I really want to go, and the other one is just like, yeah, I guess I could go there. I'm going to the place I really want to go. It's like it's
right.
Yeah.
$600 fucking million to go there. Like it's crazy to be able to say like $600 million. That's not enough respect for me. Like, okay, but at the end of the day, it may be where it's like, yeah, I mean, you have to set the market, and you want to be the guy that it's like, hey, I got pretty close to Shohei Ohtani, and I don't even pitch. Like that might be the feather in your cap, where you're trying to rival that contract, and be able to say like, yeah, like he's a pitcher and a hitter, and he got what 700, and I got 650, and I don't even pitch, and I probably won't even play defense 5 years into this contract. So I think it's a question for him. I don't know the man. I don't know what he's thinking, and he has been so perfectly coached. Like, this is a dude that got offered $400+ million when he was 20, 21 by the Nats, and turned that down, and has been asked about his impending free agency ever since. And he's been on 3 different teams. And when he got traded to the Padres, they have the introductory press conference, and he's being asked, could you see yourself being here for the rest of your career? And he's like, I just got here, dude. Like, he's been asked about this throughout his entire season with the Yankees. And I mean, he's not giving you anything. So I don't know what his line of thinking is, because he hasn't given us any indication of what that may be, because he's so well coached by Scott Boras to not give up leverage at any turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. How about Sasaki? Have you been hearing anything on that end of things? I know I think it was Breslow went over and met with him or scouted him last month or something like that. Do you see that as realistic, or is kind of the rumors more likely to be true that it's just inevitable that he ends up with the Dodgers?
If anyone tells you that they have an idea of what's going to happen, they're lying. Like we did a whole segment about this yesterday on Baseball is Dead, where we pulled up articles from like Fox, ESPN, The Athletic. Everyone has him like they picked, here are the 5 favorite, or the top 5 landing spots for Sasaki. They're all different. And I understand that everyone thinks he's just going to go to the Dodgers. And Jim Bowden went on Foul Territory and said there's an 85% chance that he signs with a team that is not the Dodgers. Like, he would take the field over the Dodgers. And then you have all these other experts and reporters that are giving you the top 5 landing spots for Sasaki, and it's 5 different teams for all of them. So I obviously have zero insight onto where he's going to sign, but anyone that tells you otherwise is apparently lying. Like, there's no, like,
it's also the fact that it's not a big contract, so it's not
right.
Like basically anybody can afford him, and technically the shitty teams can offer him the most based off that budget for the international free agents.
But it's another Juan Soto situation where it's like it's all the same, really. Like, he's gonna choose what, $3.2 million over what, $4.1 million. Like, at the end of the day, he's putting himself in a position to one day make $350 million when he becomes a free agent, or maybe he gets an extension somewhere along the line. But
so what's the deal for him? What's the contract? How many years does he sign for?
It's basically like he becomes a draft pick. So
so it's like the arbitration and all that. Yeah,
if he had waited 2 years, then he could have signed like Yamamoto did. It's like, all right, we'll give you 14 years, $350 million. He could have waited 2 years and done that. But now it's a bidding with international spending money, and all the money is going to be very comparable. It's not going to be overwhelming. It's not going to be about the money. It's going to be about which like, it's almost like he gets to pick what team he gets drafted by. Like, he's getting a signing bonus, and then he has to have his 3 years of service time. Then he goes through arbitration like any, new player to the league. And
now how does if he signs with whoever and he gets that same process, when can he sign another extension in terms of buying out, like with what they did with Bayo or Rafaela? Can they just in turn basically say, hey, a year from now, we'll give you this deal?
See, that's what I don't know, because we talked about that, and I was bringing it up to Jay Hay. I was like, what is stopping a team from just like under the table being like, all right, if you sign with us, then we'll give you an extension that's a 15-year deal for $400 million. Like, what's stopping a team from doing that? I guess that's illegal, but the question of when can you was not answered. Of like you should be able, like, you can't, it can't be illegal to give your own player a contract extension. So I don't have the exact answer for that. I would assume maybe after year 1, but I truly don't know. I'm gonna look into that because I want to know. I'll ask Passon. He would
I
know.
have to imagine teams are going to be, under the table kind of saying, hey, we'll give you this deal. And as long as things are going well a year from now, we'll give you a 12-year deal at, 200 and something million or, whatever the market is buying out those years.
Right.
I have to imagine it's being talked about whether it's technically legal or not.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I will look into that because I was curious myself. I was like, I don't know why teams wouldn't just be like, hey, like choose us, and after year 1, we'll just give you a 15-year deal. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. My next one is of the 4 top prospects. Let's say whether it's Crochet or Seattle or whoever it may be, who do you see the most likely being dealt? And I guess why?
Probably Meyer, because of the position, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I someone like Kyle Teal, who we just dropped an interview with today. Check that out.
Yeah.
Teal's going to be your catcher, and I think he's one of those dudes that has just kind of like burned through the system. Christian Campbell last year came out of absolutely nowhere, and wouldn't surprise me if by June that he's viewed as a top 3 prospect in all of baseball. And then Roman Anthony is just the real deal. Like you're not trading that guy, like a dude that can hit baseballs $117 off the bat. Like there's real freakish talent there. And it's kind of the same for Campbell. Like Campbell can play all these different defensive positions. He plays them really well. And he's hit at every level he's been at, and he hasn't just hit, he has destroyed the baseball at every level that he's been at. Just a freak athlete. So, and it's not to say that Marcelo Meyer is not going to be a really good big league player, but it's kind of just like a process of elimination thing where, like I'm not moving Campbell or Anthony for anybody. Like you can tell me you can have Garrett Crochet for a 1-for-1, and I'm like not interested. Yeah,
Would you send Mayer for him?
Maybe, but again, the White Sox are so dumb that I really don't think you have to.
Like we don't want this guy. We want lesser players.
Yeah, like I really don't
good.
think you have to part with one of the big 4 to be able to get him. I hope Meyer finds a way to be able to fit into this. Like I just think it would be a super exciting time in Red Sox fandom history to have those 4 guys all come up at the same time and all kind of fulfill their prophecies. I think, Campbell was the only guy that came out of nowhere, but Anthony and Teal and Meyer were all just instant. Like when they got drafted, Red Sox fans were like, this is the future. So it would be really cool if they all got to make it to the big leagues on the same team and form that next Red Sox core that we've been waiting to see for about a decade. Like I think probably technically it started in 2013 when Bogarts came up, but like 2014 was like really that first year where it was like you got Bogey, you got JBJ, you got Mookie, you got Vasquez. Like you started to see all these guys come up, and that became the eventual three-peat for division titles that ended in a World Series title. So I just hope he gets to be a part of it. But if there was one odd man out, then it would probably be him.
So on
my Heim Bloom agenda can flourish if that all happens.
Yeah,
I'll never let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just 2 things on Meyer, though. So, Story has is it 3 or 4 years left on his deal? And he's been shut down at the end of the year 2 years in a row. So, like two-part question. One, do you see him being able to be moved given that like Campbell can play multiple positions? He feels a little big to be an infielder to me. I don't know if that just my gut instinct. It's just given his size. Like, do you just move Mayer to second because there's a hole and theoretically you can transition short to second base? And if you don't, how much do you think that injury limits your ability to utilize him as a blue chip trade piece to go acquire a young cost controlled arm, like the starting pitcher?
So with Story, you're not moving him unless you eat money.
Right.
And I don't think that you're going to do that with multiple players. And if there's one guy that you're going to eat money to get him off the roster to make the team's flexibility better, it's Yoshida. And I'm not like gung-ho about like get him off the team, but I think Story's defense for now makes him an asset to you, whereas paying him to play for someone else does you no good, and then still having Yoshida kind of clog up the fluidity of the roster, really, because he's not going to play defense, and he doesn't really have enough pop to be your everyday DH. And if the plan is, Alex Bregman at third and Devers goes to first, or Devers to DH because you've got Vladdy at first base. Like there's just so many different ways to make your team better that kind of involves trading Yoshida more so than trading Story. And to your point about Campbell being too big, I think he can play second base. Like Story is like 6'3". Like Story's a big dude. And
but Story's what, $185, and Campbell goes 210. It was more the weight piece because Campbell's what, 6'6'1", but he's 200 plus.
Story's got to be bigger than that, man. Yeah, he's.
I'll look it up. I didn't think he was 200 plus. I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, for even what he's listed, I mean, Story is bigger than Campbell.
Yeah, so he's listed at 6'3", 213.
Story,
yeah. And
what's Campbell?
I think they list him at 6 foot 210.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he's not that big. Like, cause we were down there for we had like a section.
He's also 6'3". I thought he was a little short. He's 6'3", 210. So
Campbell?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't remember him being that tall.
I didn't think he was Story at 6'2", 210.
Yeah, and Baseball Reference has Kristen Campbell at 6'3", 210. I didn't think Campbell was 6'3". I thought he was 6 foot. But
yeah, that makes more sense. Like in my mind,
he doesn't. I don't see him being 6. He doesn't play like a 6'3" guy.
No, he's got meaty quads though. Like he looks like a well-conditioned athlete. Like he looks like someone
when he arrives.
Yeah, like if he walked up to you and said, "Guess what sport I play?" it would be difficult to guess. Like he looks like he could fit into any sport.
He's got Earl Campbell legs.
Yeah.
It took me a while to realize how big he was.
Yeah.
Like, without going to look at his bio, even watching him play, like you kind of watched him, on TV and say, all right, like this guy looks like he's a little bit not on the smaller side, but an average size player. And then you look more into it and you're like, oh shit, this guy's like, he's got good size to him. So the puff isn't as surprising to see what he did this year, breaking out. Do you have a prospect coming in that we saw Roman Anthony be that guy last year. We saw Campbell be that guy this year. Props to, I forget who it was. Might have been Ed Hand. I forget. Someone called, or Ed Hand said he talked to someone and asked who's going to be this year's Roman Anthony. And they called that it was going to be Christian Campbell. So I'm going to be interested to see who he says this year. Is there a prospect that you believe could have that type of emergence again this year?
I mean, everyone loves the password. I mean, that dude, I don't know that there's like a can't miss guy. It's not even like it's not an unpopular pick because, I mean, what was he? He was the first round pick from last year, the kid that, Braden Montgomery.
Yeah.
So he what did he do? He like slid into home and like messed up his leg like real bad, and
He like broke his ankle or something.
He got hurt in the right before the College World Series. Yeah, he needed some kind of like reconstructive ankle surgery, and he missed the rest of the season. Like didn't play. Like he missed their entire postseason run. Like, they had legit like national championship aspirations and lost him for the year.
Yeah. So this is a dude that I feel like it's not, it's not like a sleeper pick by any means. He's probably a top 5. I mean, yeah, he would probably, if there's a big 3 that became a big 4, he's the guy that can make it the big 5. Like legitimately, he can make it the big 5.
Yeah.
And not just be like, oh yeah, like the Red Sox top 5 prospects, he's the 5th best. It's like, well, if you're number 5 in the Red Sox system, that puts you at number 1 in a lot of other teams' systems. Like that's how talented they are right now. So that would that would be my prospect take, is that this is the year that Montgomery makes the big 3 a big 4, and then a big 4 a big 5.
He is the Red Sox number 5 prospect on MLB.com for the record.
There you go.
Fair enough. All right. Before we get into state your takes, there was a few questions that people had specifically for you, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being, what is your worst experience at Fenway?
My worst experience at Fenway? There was a couple that come to mind. There was one time that I was at Fenway. It was the last time that I was going to Fenway with my dad before I was moving to New York. And there was this kid, this punk kid. He had to have been 19, 20 years old, just hammered like 5 rows behind me. And he kept like chirping me, but like not like talking shit about me, but he kept being like, yeah, like tweet that. Why don't you tweet that? Blah, blah, blah. And like, I turned around like a couple times, and like my dad like could see that I was getting pissed off, but like he wasn't seeing it the way that I was seeing it. Like we were sitting like in section 10, like in my family's like season ticket seats, and like it was like a sentimental thing to me. Like this is the last time I'm going to Fenway in our family seats before I moved to Manhattan. God, and I didn't know for how long I was going to be there. And I was just like trying to soak it in with my dad, and this kid like wouldn't shut up. And then I turned around and I snapped. I started flipping the fuck out on him. I like told him to like come down to like my seats. I was going to slap the shit out of him. And he just like went like ghost white, and he was with his buddies and they were laughing. And then when I snapped, they just stopped and they were like, all right, dude, like leave him alone. Like, and I was like, yeah. I was like, yes, leave me alone. Like I was explaining, I was like, this is my last game with my dad before I have to move to New York. Can you just like fuck off? That would be awesome. And like he asked me for a picture after, and I was like, no, see ya. Fuck.
Yeah, he's trying to act tough, drunk guy, making himself seem cool, and he didn't expect you to kind of turn the tables on him.
No, like it's whatever. Like if there was like any type of like dickhead experience, I don't really get many of those, but it was like the circumstances that made me mad. If it was any other game ever, I would not have cared or even acknowledged him at all. But it was the circumstances where I was just like, nah, I'm gonna lose my shit, and I did.
Everyone has those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about player? Is there a player that you've met already that you still kind of get giddy when you see?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys like that. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I get really happy to see a lot. Like, there's a lot of guys that I think have become actual friends over the years. Guys that I still keep in touch with. Guys that I still, I'll watch their games and I'll pay closer attention when I know that they're up or I know that they're pitching. There's just like a lot of like good guys that even if they never even played for the Red Sox, that I still kind of keep. Like Christian Yelich is like one of the first guys that comes to mind. Like I think like Bregman when the Astros come to town. Giolito when he was on the
Is the Bregman talk anything serious, you think?
I don't like. I thought that the whole 350 thing was outrageous. I don't think that was that. I don't think that came from them. Yeah, I don't think that was like Boris putting that out there. I think that was kind of just very speculative.
I think he'll be like Montgomery and Snell and them, and waiting till January, February to sign if that's his price tag. I think.
Yeah. But JD Martinez, like he's that dude will be the homie until the day that I die. And then I still keep in touch with Kevin Plawecki, who I don't know what his playing status is these days, but all-time great guy, and Bobby Dahlbeck.
I've been just praying Bobby Dahlbeck ends up the first baseman for the Colorado Rockies this year.
Oh my god, he
just mashes. Yeah, just mashes 30, 40 bombs, and some stupid team gives him some ridiculous contract over the next few years, and then he goes back to sucking outside of.
There's no reason why he can't become the next Brent Rooker.
I mean, in theory, yeah.
Dude, I was playing in a charity baseball game in Texas in 3 years ago. It was November of 2021, and Brent Rooker was in that game. He was on the other team, and no one knew who he was. And now he's a dude that has like a 960 OPS in the big leagues. He's made an all-star team, and he's hitting bombs, and he's like one of the most sought-after guys at every trade deadline. So it can happen. It can happen just like that. I knew who he was. Because he was on Team USA. We followed each other on Twitter from Team USA, and like he literally was walking up and down the street. No one. I think I was the only person that said hi to him.
There you go. I mean, knowing him ahead before everyone else, it's impressive.
Yeah, Team USA, baby.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's time for State Your Take. I mentioned it to you, Jared, before. Basically, any take you want. Doesn't have to be sports related, just something bold to put your name on it. Zach, you want to start us off?
I'll start us off. Kind of mentioned his name before, but the pitcher, I think there's one big name pitcher that the Sox will sign. I'm gonna say Max Fried is that person. I'll say like probably 5 years. I'll put a number to it. 5 years, 120, around that ballpark. I just think that the Giolito connection, I think, is too. Maybe Jared, you know more about this than I do, but I think it's just too much to ignore that. And I think he's the big name pitcher that the Sox end up signing this year, among other teams, among other players, of course. But he's the big name pitcher.
Fair enough. Ben, how about you?
So Zach stole half my thunder. I'm gonna ride the cautious optimism. I think the Red Sox land Juan Soto. I think, John Henry had to be sweet talked by God knows how many people to pay Rafael Devers, and this is essentially like paying two Rafael Devers. But I think, we talked about this earlier. Just the comments that Kennedy's coming out with gives me cautious optimism. He's specific. He's like, hey, we got to get to 90, 95 wins, and if it means we have to spend past the CBT, then so be it. That's a lot more. That means more to me than, oh, hey, we're going to go full throttle. Well, full throttle is too, it's too subjective. Like, well, what does that mean, right? So if they're willing to spend, I'll ride the cautious optimism and say, they land Juan Soto. And I'm more of a Max Fried guy than a Blake Snell guy. So I think they get them both. Yes, Max Fried is a ground ball pitcher, and the infield is not conducive to that. But he's younger, and I don't think he would cost that much more than a Blake Snell. I think you can get Fried for 6 years in high 20s, whereas Blake Snell's going to be 5 and low 30s. So I like him to land both. And what that means for next year, but I'm going to ride the cautious optimism. Hopefully I don't get snake bitten, because we were snake bitten a year ago. So I'll ride the cautious optimism and say, we'll be introducing Juan Soto and Max Fried in the next 8 to 10 weeks.
When that breaking news hits, I'm just waiting for the eyeball emojis from Jared.
I've been saving them. But
it was 7 minutes before it happens. I remember with the Sale trade, you just posted his I think it was the final out of the World Series right before. And I
Yeah.
texted Ben. I was like, "What the fuck is about to happen?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Is he getting traded? Is he getting extended? Like, what's going to happen?" And then that trade went down. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I think when Heim Bloom got hired, I just like tweeted a picture of his Wikipedia page or something like that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, I'm gonna go. You know, I told myself the last few days, I was like, Jared's coming on. I got to think of a good Red Sox one. But Ben's background is kind of pushing me to that side of it. And I'm hypocritical because my wife will never allow this to be a scenario for the rest of my life. But I don't believe Christmas decorations should go up until after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
It drives me nuts. And on November 1st, every day for the rest of my life, I'm going to be carrying boxes up from my fucking basement to decorate for Christmas because my wife is, happy wife, happy life. And that's unfortunately how it's going to be for me. But I don't think it's how it should be.
No.
How long do you wait to take them down is the question.
Oh, don't even get me started, dude. So if it was up to her, we would be living in Florida. Like she does not want to live in Mass. And I promised her I'd say this, Jared. Her favorite. She's a little bit into sports. Red Sox are her top. Her favorite moment from you is the video of you at Fenway. I think it was JD that hit the home runs, or maybe Bogey, but it's just you screaming 7. He's gonna hit 7.
Oh
Just
yeah.
Just random moments. I told her, I was like, "Oh, Jared Carrabis is coming on the pod." She's like, "He could hit 7."
Yeah,
screaming it.
I think. Was that Mookie? Maybe it was like someone had 3 home runs in like the first 3 innings or something like that, and the only one I can remember having like that many home runs that early would have been Mookie, but
yeah, I forget.
I do remember that
exactly.
He could hit 7.
Yeah, that's her top moment. She'll say it just completely randomly. Anytime someone like mentions a specific number or someone big on the Sox hits it, she'll just randomly throw out that quote.
That was funny. I've never gotten that one as someone's favorite. It's always like spraying hubs with the hose or the Astros walk off like a man who shot a gun at a woman. that one. Yeah, those ones. Or the LA score guy in the World Series in 18.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that guy was like 3-0, and then it was like 4-3. It's like, yeah, you're losing now. I don't know why. I don't know why you're still bragging. Yeah, my take would be, out of all the players that we've talked about on this show, the Red Sox will end up with 3 of them, at least 3 of them. Yeah. So
I got to go back
and combination.
I got to go back and write down all the names that were said.
Yeah, I think it was like Crochet, Snell, Fried, Soto, Vladdy, Teoscar.
Matt brought up some of the Seattle pitchers in a trade. Gilbert, Miller. I don't know if you want to throw those in there into your list of 3 guys, but
they've already said that they're not going to like move any of them though.
And Matt's been riding the trade somebody to Seattle for a young pitcher for like 10 years now.
Yeah, like I was with you up until this
year. I think they're lying to. Like, I kind of just feel like they're lying to you. Where if you put if you dangled Jaron Duran in their faces,
they'll offer you Luis Castillo. They're not going to offer. They're not going to offer you.
Perhaps, perhaps. But I'm saying if you're willing to put
Luis
Duran,
Castillo though.
Yeah, me too.
Christian Campbell on the market, on the table. I don't see how, in the position that they're in, that they say no, we're not even going to consider something like that.
They don't want to.
I just refuse to believe it.
They don't have enough money. They got to keep their cost control pitching for as long as possible.
All right, so
that's why they're going to trade a $220 million pitcher.
I mean, in theory, or you could trade for different prospects and or young good players that are also cost controlled and balance the team.
Castillo would look good. Castillo would look good in Boston, but I digress.
I would love him in Boston.
Yeah, it's got that swag.
He fits. I mean, yeah, he fits, and I don't know. I feel like he's probably pretty far down the Sox list of options, but if they strike out on couple of these free agents and then maybe Crochet, they could probably turn to a plan, I don't know, and going after someone like him.
And I don't think Castillo would cost you much either, especially with that contract. They'd ship. I mean, probably not as dumb as the White Sox, but they shed money like that's the only thing they care about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting them out. But all right, that's gonna wrap us up for this week. Jared, we all appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, basically everybody who watches this already knows who Jared is, but if you don't, he hosts Section 10.
He'll find you and slap the shit out of you.
Yeah, works for Nesson and Underdog Fantasy and all that. We appreciate you coming on. I messaged Milliken yesterday and I was like, "Hey, Jared's coming on. Like, now I need you to come on." Like,
he'll do it. He's never said no to a show in his life.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I was there at your Section 10 night. Watching you dunk him in the. Yeah, I remember because it was Ben had mentioned that he ran into you in person, and
we see each other all the time because my girlfriend's daughter does cheer. Is it the same team as your daughter, Ben?
Yeah, they're both on the same team.
Okay, yeah. So it's he's the only person that will talk to me when I go to these things. I walk there and I'm just like sitting on the bleachers and I'm like, this is not my town. I don't know anyone here, but I'll always talk to Ben about baseball. And then we're going to Disney in 2 weeks.
Yeah, December 7th. I will say it was an awkward thing because I texted Mike Nelson and I was like, pretty sure I was like, do you know why Jared would be in Billerica? And he didn't know. And he was like, he's like, you should say something to him. And I was like, feels kind of weird just to like out of the blue be like, hey, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are. I have to say this thing. But he still chuckles about the what was it, I Heart Balco t-shirt.
Yes. So
he told me to tell Jared, he's like something about he still can't hit a curveball or something like that.
No, he makes fun of me because there was a game. So Mike Nelson was my baseball coach in high school. He's now like, it's weird because like we're like friends. It almost feels like we're very similar in age, which is odd. But like he was my high school gym teacher, and he was also my baseball coach. So I have a few Mike Nelson stories. The first one is my sophomore year of high school. He's very jacked, or he thinks he is, and we were able to like bid on like which teacher that like had to like do whatever we wanted basically. And he was my gym teacher as well as my baseball coach. So I bid on him, made him carry like all my books to all my classes. And for that week, he had to wear a t-shirt that I made that says I Heart Balco on it because I was like, he's definitely on steroids. And then I made a rule for gym class where like we had to play whatever I wanted. So I picked like bounce pitch, which was just like it's a taped up wiffle ball bat and a tennis ball. But I got to hit for both teams, and I automatically was up first every inning. So I'll just be crushing homers off like the goth kids. And so that was that one. There was a game where like to this day, he still will give me shit about it. I balked like twice in an inning, but I didn't. Like the umpire, I swear to God, like the umpire just like wanted to seem smart. Like I was the only one in high school on my high school baseball team that actually knew like mechanics. Like everyone else is just like they didn't know like intellectual baseball at all. Like they didn't know what the infield fly rule was, or like they didn't know like inside baseball type stuff. And I obviously knew what a balk was and what you can and can't do. And every time like I came set, like this umpire would just call balk on me because I can like turn my head. Like as long as my shoulder doesn't move, I can look at this guy at first base. I can turn my whole head around if I can. Like I just have great flexibility with my neck. So he was calling a balk on me all the time. I was like, buddy, like my shoulder's not moving at all. It's my neck that's moving. And he called multiple balks on me. And I never heard the end of it from Mike Nelson.
This haunts Jared gonna haunt Jared for the rest of his life.
I swear to God, the only time a balk had ever been called on me at any level in my entire life of pitching was in that game multiple times in the same inning. Like there's just no way. It was insane. But he was also I did a Nesson Like a Pro episode where we were like practicing for me throwing out the first pitch at Fenway, and we went back to like my old high school baseball field, and we like were basically doing a bit where Nelson was like catching me. Like he was like, yeah, let's see what you got, but you still got it, blah blah blah. So he was in that episode, but yeah, great guy. Love Nelson, but I'm definitely bigger than him now. I would beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Fair enough. No, yeah. When Ben mentioned that that you were there, I was like, all right, you gotta make our pitch here. Like this is the opportunity to make something happen.
I'm happy to do it. I mean, Ben keeps me sane. I mean, because I don't like football. I'm sorry to say this. I don't like football. I don't like other sports. I like baseball. I like WWE, UFC, and horror movies. That's it. Like I don't like other sports. I could not care less. So sitting there in the cold, watching football, with no one else to talk to unless Ben is there, it's my personal hell. Yep.
On wildly uncomfortable metal bleachers.
Yep. On weekend mornings, like I don't have anything else to do with my life.
Yeah.
But we do it for the kids.
I know
it's for the kids.
I was gonna say, I know it's exactly what you guys both want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Those mornings when Ben's missing Patriots games.
Yeah.
Because he's watching his 9-year-old daughter cheerlead.
Yep.
He's like, this is exactly what I want to be doing right now.
Miss it on Sunday to drive to the worst part of Worcester and watch them get absolutely railroaded by Hartford in the New England Regional Championship. That was my Sunday.
Yeah. So that's
all right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, but anyways, yeah, thank you for coming on. Obviously, you're welcome on anytime you want.
I'm happy to do it again whenever.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a preseason, spring training type of episode.
We'll do a Soto celebration episode.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me with a good time. All right, you guys. All right, you heard it here. If Soto signs, Garrett's coming back on, and
emergency pod. We'll do it at 3:00 in the morning if we need to.
It will just be like
I won't be
an
sleeping
hour
that night,
of all of us just screaming in happiness.
Yep, I'm in.
All right, until next time, we'll raise the banner. Take care, guys. We'll be back next week, and we'll do some Patriots talk next week.
Yep.
We're Red Sox and Red Sox only this week. So
yeah.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.